This is a review of set 75299 Trouble on Tatooine. This set has 276 pieces with original retail price of $30 back in January of 2021. Before we get into the set, I want to show a little flaw with the instruction booklet here, where they put a emblem of Darth Vader there rather than the Mandalorian, which it should be for all of the Mandalorian sets despite the year, but for some reason on the instruction booklet they messed up here. Instead of putting the Mandalorian, they put Darth Vader, which is still cool, but obviously doesn't match the set and is clearly a mistake. This set includes 3 minifigures, the Child, the Mandalorian, as well as a Tusken Raider. The Child refers to the Grogu, as in 2021 we hadn't had his name being dropped yet, as this was in the beginning of Season 2. It is a pretty basic figure and has been included in a ton of other sets, including a baby torso as well as a nice rubberized head. Obviously you can't feel it, but it is very rubber and it fits on his body pretty nice. Overall on accuracy, it's not too accurate, but I feel like it gets the job done. There is a rumor for 2026 with a Mandalorian and one Starfighter UCS set, which may or may not include a new version of Grogu. This Grogu, but of course it'll be a different mold, which is the main thing. Personally, I don't think there's any problem, at least for me, having this set and this figure in the set, because I don't really think anything is too wrong with them. But for a UCS set that I would be paying like $230, I believe was the leaked price, I would rather have a nice mold, especially if you're only getting Grogu and the Mandalorian. Our second figure here is the Mandalorian, who's been included in so many other sets with the new Beskar look. This figure was not exclusive to the set. He comes with a pretty basic arm printing, leg printing, and cape. Nothing really changed, but the helmet definitely could go with some improvements. They do improve that in the newer figure, which I'll show a little bit later. But there is the iconic disintegration rifle that he has. Even all the older Mandalorians have it. He also comes with this pistol, which is kind of weird because it is not a normal like short blaster. It has like no scope here, so it's very weird why they include it as an actual accessory. And of course, Mandalorian technically wasn't face reveal at this point, so we get a normal black face on him. But the newer version, basically the only difference with the newer version here, this would be the one that would be included in the 2026 Mandalorian speeder bike, would have this nice helmet, of course, which I'll show later, and then I'll have this very nice face print, which I still feel like the older one should have had, because in Season 1, he literally was face revealed, and obviously we still know the actor was Pedro Pascal, so technically we still knew what he looks like. But looking at the helmet, the newer one definitely has a lot better like detail on it, not just with like the amount of like lines. The also main like general visor I think is a lot more sleeker and it looks a lot better. Also the cheeks are a little bit more defined, as well as the front area with a lot more detail. This is kind of just the bare minimum, honestly, and it's crazy that this one actually might be the best Mandalorian because it is also the newer one. I do have the UCS Razor Crest with the older style Mandalorian, I guess, older armor Mandalorian, but still has the same helmet. But overall, I definitely think they could have done the improvement in 2021. Nothing was really stopping them, but I don't really think it's too bad because they did include it in a bunch of other sets and would have been weird to include it just not in this one. And finally is the Tusken Raider, who comes with a very nice exclusive head mold. Unfortunately, I do not have the 2002 version of this Tusken Raider to compare it to, but the 2002 version had a normal head just with a different print, and this has an amazing mold, which actually looks very, very nice. Of course, he comes with his iconic stick here, which I think is very nice in his brick-built form. He also comes with a very nice torso print and even a leg print. This is quite possibly the best Tusken Raider ever. I literally don't think LEGO can make any improvements. I feel like it's not talked about a lot, but the head mold is just so good on it. I believe they've had it in other sets, at least up until 2021, January of 2021. But honestly, amazing figure. I wish they would have included more, would be my only flaw. And also with this set, you'll be able to create a lot more scenes like the Episode 2 attack, or Tusken Raider encounter, I guess, is what LEGO calls it, but the attack where Anakin faces some of the Tusken Raiders. I feel like you can also use a lot of these Tusken Raiders for a lot of other scenes, like in Episode 4 as well, but honestly, amazing figure, and it definitely deserves to be in the set, but more if I had to wish for something. This set includes 3 different builds: the cannon used to destroy the Crate Dragon, sort of half of a Tusken Raider hut, as well as a Mandalorian speeder bike. So I'll start with the speeder bike. We are getting an improved version in 2026, which is the main reason why I reviewed this set. I feel like this build is pretty accurate and also is pretty like useful in a sense. You get this nice front build for the speeder, which technically is adjustable, as well as the handrails here are the grips, I guess, but it should technically just stay flat like this. And it does look pretty nice. It's pretty smooth. Definitely not as good as the 2026 version, but we can fit Mando in there. And it also comes with 2 side clips. He comes with 2 separate blasters that he should be holding on to. You have his smaller blaster can fit on 1 clip, and he also has another clip that can fit his longer blaster. And then of course you have the very nice 2x2 seat for him, and he can grab onto the railings. Technically you can make him go up 1 stud, so instead of putting all of his legs on there, maybe leave it a little bit exposed. If you genuinely want to have him like riding up front, it is kind of hard to fit it with his cape, so his cape will kind of go in sort of this brown grate tile, if you can see that. That's basically where I would probably want to have the cape without it folding. This one is pretty old, so it's kind of already been folding, but you can obviously attach his hands to the bars. You kind of have to have him, I would rather have him like up closer to it than the bars going up, because it makes it much less accurate, and when you're trying to grab onto it, it doesn't fully go onto the ground. I know it technically should be hovering, but the entire vehicle should theoretically be flat, and then it should be hovering a little bit, so it does kind of put him up at a slant a little bit, so you don't have this flush to the ground or flush to the other bottom, which I don't know if it was made on purpose. It kind of does give off like a hovering effect, which I kind of do like. I don't know if that was actually on purpose again, but one of my favorite parts of this year, actually 2021, was this side part here, which you can use to attach Grogu onto it. I believe this was actually included in the Razor Crest as well, the play scale one, which was 2019, I believe. I still have that set, and I believe it also includes that part. It also uses a very nice technique to actually attach it. It comes with a little brown satchel on the back to hold the Crate Dragon meat, and overall this is a really nice speeder-like build. I mean, the only thing that I don't like is seeing the old Mando on it, but this definitely makes me want to get the new set, because the new set is a lot better. But the one thing that I wish they would just include in the new set is this little satchel piece there. I really like it, and it just fits Grogu so accurately. Really like the speeder bike overall, but I do think the 2026 one is a lot better, at least by looks. I haven't actually had that, but I will probably have a review after January 1st when I get it on the release day. The next build is a Tusken Raider hut, which kind of is a hut and kind of isn't. I have the Tusken Raider minifigure here because we will need his staff here to attach it to this clip, which kind of fits, but I don't really like it a lot. I would have rather had sort of a clip like here on the side, so it would have been sort of a little bit raised, not just stuck on the ground. But you can actually fold this out if you want to put like minifigures inside of here. Technically you could like fit a little Tusken Raider in there. It might be hard to fit it in here, so you could like fold it out. And also they have some joints on the top, so you can technically raise the roof a little bit here. I'll show it a little bit here. It's very fragile. I just attached it, but you can see there you can raise the roof a little bit if it's like even harder to actually attach these figures you want. There is this center post, which technically you can fold this back up to sort of complete the half Tusken Raider hut, but you can obviously fold that back down to see the campfire here, surrounded by a bunch of 1x1 cheese wedges in dark gray. Looks very nice. It also has a little bit of detail, like a pot here with a bone, maybe even a Crate Dragon bone. And honestly, if there's one thing I have to improve on it, maybe a little bit more detail, besides the fact that it doesn't really, it's not very fragile, or it's very fragile to pick up with one hand overall. That might just be because of the bricks, but I wish it would be like a full hut, if that makes any sense, because in the movies we see it, and the shows, obviously The Mandalorian being a full hut. It is kind of nice to have like a play set, so you can actually have the Tusken Raiders out, but they could have had a feature where you sort of remove half of it. I feel like it's not so far-fetched that it wouldn't make any sense, but Now for the final build, the bowcaster here, or the giant little turret we get here, which I'll start with the flick fire missile because, of course, press it down, fires like normal, but it comes with this very cool silver gray, which I feel like is very nice attention to detail because it's a lot more accurate than like a bright red that they would usually have for Star Wars. You can grab a Tusken Raider and attach his hand to the back here so you can prepare to fire it. There's actually a lot of really cool details and a bunch of things like you can fold these parts up, and it also has these gray bands which are technically like elastic. You can bend them a little bit. Also has a bunch of gear here, as well as a clear 2x2, so you can stand it up pretty well and then fit the Tusken Raider on it, and actually looks very nice. Also has this little part adjustable in the front, as well as this to sort of like wind it back, as in like you're pulling this back, loading sort of like a crossbow, which I actually kind of like. Sort of that counts as a play feature. The more you kind of like push it in, it's kind of harder to turn it, but overall I still think you can like technically attach the Tusken Raider. Even like you can attach his hand to one of these bars here. You can sort of make it seem like he is actually like pushing it down and loading it in, which I think is kind of cool. I really like this build, but honestly, if I had to choose a build for one of these for these three, I guess out of these three, I think independently they're like amazing builds. Even as a set together, they're amazing, but I wish they would have just made it like $100 rather than $30, and then include a giant crate dragon. I haven't looked at any alt builds yet, but I'm thinking there should be an alt build with at least these two builds, maybe even the speeder bike, to actually get a crate dragon. Because once I saw that episode, immediately I wanted that crate dragon, and also that would play very well with the 2026 Mandalorian speeder bike, and then also the Cobb Vanth speeder, because this episode did have a Cobb Vanth in it. But I don't technically think, obviously 2021 retired in 2023, I believe, and obviously that wouldn't really pair well with the 2026 set, but honestly, I'd rather have a crate dragon. I will, once I get the Mandalorian Cobb Vanth speeder, I probably will say I wish it was a crate dragon, because that's one of the coolest creatures, and I really like it when LEGO makes brick-built creatures, especially when they make it good. I would have rather had a crate dragon than this, but I still think all the builds are independently good. I feel like it didn't retain that much value on the aftermarket. I believe Brick Economy said it went from $30 retail to $25 brand new sealed, which is kind of crazy, so you would be losing money. But honestly, if you're getting the speeder bike, I kind of wouldn't say no to this. But the only reason I would is because you would get an extra speeder bike. But these two builds, if you have the Cobb Vanth speeder and the Mandalorian speeder, I feel like these two builds are very, very nice for it, especially because you can get it under retail. I'm not quite sure where you would find this because it's not exactly a popular set, but I still think it is a pretty good set. Back in 2021, probably not as much, honestly, especially in the moment where you get the inaccurate instructions here, for absolutely no reason. No idea why they couldn't just double check that. And then sort of a half of a Tusken Raider hut there. I don't think it was the greatest for 2021, but now, since it's literally cheaper than retail, and there's a bunch of sets you can have to go with it, especially if you're a fan of Tatooine and the desert, and of course the Mandalorian, I feel like now would be a good time to pick it up. I did have one commenter asking if it was worth it to get the other speeder bike in this Trouble on Tatooine. Honestly, I don't think you should really go out of your way to get it, but if you actually are planning on getting most of the Mandalorian sets in 2026, I feel like why not, especially with the new movie coming up. I'm excited to see what that has to offer, but that's probably going to do it for today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed. Have an amazing rest of your day, and see you all in the next one.